We are live with audio.
Call meeting to order and let's stand for the pledge. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As a way of respecting, honoring, and creating awareness about our past, we begin our village board meetings by acknowledging that New Paltz is on the ancestral land of the Munsee, Sokas, and Lenape people. And please check out our agendas and our minutes for an ongoing list of ways to support Indigenous communities. We have some suggestions to get people started. Please help us expand this list by reaching out.
And as we did at the last two meetings, we're going to take a moment of silence to recognize how important women's reproductive rights are. Okay, looking at this agenda, I need to add item number 4 to the consent agenda. This is a request regarding the 30-day waiting period for a liquor license at Mexican Kitchen. And also on the consent agenda, authorizing the treasurer to move $400,000 from the general fund to the capital fund as a short-term loan to cover expenses associated with our environmental facilities for water infrastructure project. And nothing to add or update in the business agenda. Does anyone have questions? Otherwise, I'm gonna move to amend the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And let's do announcements.
I have an announcement. Family of New Paltz is continuing to need donations, not just food and I believe they're taking clothing items again in season only, but also financial donations to help our community who goes to them for all kinds of things, including help with paying bills. So I think it's a great way for all of us, and I wanted to just throw out a friendly challenge to anyone listening and those of us on the board to either, I know money is tight for all of us for different reasons, but challenge you to either donate $20 this week, or if that's not doable, to reach out to 5 friends and ask them to donate any amount of money. And perhaps those 5 friends will be able to accumulate a little bit of funds, and that would be just a help to help our community and for those within our community to pay those bills that can make or break a household. So, and with that, Family of New Paltz is open 10 to 5 Monday through Thursday and 10 to 4 on Fridays. And keep it in the back of your mind that the 18th annual Turkey Trot is happening live this Thanksgiving morning, which November's going to hear before yeah, that's it for me.
Sweet. I have some announcements. One is I had reached out to Legal Services Hudson Valley since our last meeting to check in on how their intake process is going after hearing from a few of our Village of New Paltz tenants who had reached out to me for assistance, and then I connected them with Legal Services of the Hudson Valley, who provide pro bono legal assistance to those who need and can't afford their own lawyers and whatnot. And a few tenants have told me that they were told that basically intake was closed at Legal Services of the Hudson Valley. So reached out. Thank you so much to Jenny, who got back to me like literally within an hour of my note with a really detailed explanation. Basically, they closed down their intake form as their caseload becomes like they can't take anyone else on. And then as soon as a case clears up, the form opens up again. So if you find yourself rejected You know, like you find yourself applying on their intake form, either over the phone or on the website. And they say, sorry, we're not taking on anyone else. Try again in a few days. It's really frustrating, but set yourself an alarm on your calendar or something like that, or just an alarm on your phone, and try again in a few days, because it does open up every couple of days again. It's also something that I've made sure our state representatives and future state representatives are aware of as an issue. And I believe Senator Hinchy was looking into seeing if it's a matter of funding or anything else that she could maybe help troubleshoot from the state level. So again, if you have reached out to legal services for assistance and found the, you know, application or the portal was closed down, please try again in a few days. It's just a capacity issue. I have some other announcements that you've heard before, but I need to keep repeating them because I promised a few friends I would. The Never Use a Loan hotline. It's 800-484-3731. You can text it or call it. And that way you're never using a loan, which is, you know, a leading way to die. There are Narcan trainings always available online, thanks to our community wellness program. It's opioidpreventionnp.org. There's Narcan, other harm reduction services like fentanyl test strips available on demand by delivery anywhere in Ulster County. You can text or call 914-610-5324. Our free food fridge operates 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. 7 days a week, right outside this building, 25 Plattekill Avenue. It definitely needs more donations in terms of food. So to check out the do's and do nots, you can go to the fridge and check that out right on the fridge, or go to millionsatbutterflies.org/free-food-fridge for more info. And that's it for me for now.
Alex, to just further stress the importance of what you shared, there was information out that there's an increase in opioid overdose in Ulster County. Phoenix Kawamoto sent that out to alert the community, and so just, you know, like you said, and the Oracle hotline is a team of people to assist with those looking to achieve recovery, and also will not make any arrest if you call for an overdose. And that number is 888-996-0940.
Thanks, everybody. So any other announcements, or should we turn to our county legislator, Eve Walter, for Eve's regular update?
Hey, Eve, thanks for coming.
Hey, I'm just trying to get my middle notes up. Hi, thanks for having me. So a few updates that I thought would be of interest to you all. First, there were about 50 organizations applied for funding from the legislature through an ARPA resolution to help support nonprofits. And I just wanted to let you know the New Paltz, the people who were granted awards in New Paltz include Phillies Bridge, New Paltz Rescue Squad, the Millbrook Preserve, the VFW, Unison Arts, and Denison. Different amounts depending on what they asked for. So I just wanted to let you know about that. Some resolutions that I think are of interest that will be voted on likely this month, next week. One is a capital project and utilizing ARPA money for parks. And this is a partnership with municipalities. It would be shared, so there'd be some expected input from municipalities towards what's being done. But so that is being voted on next week. But it looks pretty positive that, at least on our side, that most legislators seem to be supportive of this. So it's likely going to go through. And then I guess the parameters of how municipalities apply for some of these park funds. Also specified that it's not for trails because there was another one related to trails. So this is specifically for parks. Then other one is a policy to eliminate UCAT fees altogether so that it's free. This was actually got some overwhelming support on all levels. Interestingly, the way we get funded, and I just learned this yesterday, from state and federal to reimburse or to give us money back for UCAT is based on riders, but that's a tally, not an actual revenue. So if UCAT is free and we increase riders, we'll actually get more state and federal money. So it's sort of crazy that it ever costs anything because, and there's a real effort to really give UCAT a huge facelift, make it much more available, accessible, make the where it's going more obvious. They're talking about wrapping them. They joked, although who knows, about putting the I voted image on him or something. But obviously, in order, if this passes, part of it will have to be a lot of outreach and publicity to let our constituents know that it would be a free bus. There would still be a way that individuals who wanted to pay or pay more or do something can contribute to UCAT, but otherwise people will be just allowed to ride it for free should this pass, which again on our side seems pretty likely. And the other one is there is a slow expansion of charging stations that are being put around. You know, the intention is ultimately related to county entities, such as like they're expanding the number of UCAT buses that are green. And so having these charging stations all over the county, but also converting the sheriff's fleet to a green fleet, you know, an effort to convert to green is motivating this. So I believe a New Paltz location is cited as one of the places for these charging stations. I believe they're level 2. I don't know, Tim, if they reached out to you about that or not, but I do know that they mentioned New Paltz when we asked where the locations. New Paltz was named as one of them. And
So,
yeah.
Was there any discussion at all? Because we've struggled with charging stations in terms of their ongoing expenses. So obviously you have to pay for the electricity, but then, you know, for instance, we have ChargePoint here at Village Hall, and it became prohibitively expensive to pay for their ongoing service. And then they would say, oh, well, you now need to update some hardware. That's going to cost you X number of dollars. So I think it really matters who we end up partnering with as far as the charging station and their business model.
Yeah, I will follow up on that. You know, I knew that there have been some incentives where some of these companies are saying that if you pay for the connection, we'll pay for the actual chargers. But obviously, that does not sound like what the situation of you. I don't know if that's a newer policy, but I will check on that. Yeah,
it's just one of those things we all need to be on the same page and read the fine print, because when we did that with ChargePoint, it just became a real hindrance and I think an unfair expense for village taxpayers.
Mm-hmm. And do you know, I mean, I could talk to David myself, but I know that he had gotten some arrangement where they just had to pay for the install and then the rest was free.
Yeah, he's definitely using a different company than the company that we have here. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, I think there's an opportunity to find a better partner, to find a better manufacturer of hardware. That's all.
Right. No, that's a good point. I will find out more about that. Any questions about any of the others, the park resolution or the UCAT fares?
Oh, no, how much is the park resolution going to be for each
Well,
recipient?
I was actually, that was one of the things I was trying to pull right when Sam called my name. I believe the total amount is 2 million. But not per, that's the total resolution.
When we discussed it at the Supervisors and Mayors Association meeting, one of your colleagues from the county ledge presented the proposed legislation. And they said that dollar amount was $100K per muni.
Okay, with the, do you remember, is it a 50-50 match?
That's the question that we were asking, whether it was 50-50 or 1/3, and it seemed like it was to be determined.
Okay,
But the award was for $100K, and to your point, it would require some contribution from the local government.
yeah, so it is, let's see, I have the whereases instead in front of me. Intends to make fair investments with municipalities to establish a program to match either through direct financial investments or through in-kind services. So I guess in-kind services such as the use of municipal equipment, labor, and those kinds of things can be towards the match of up to 50% of the total cost with a maximum of $100,000 per project.
So that's good. So it's a little bit different than the water sewer program, which was up to 1/3, I believe, or 30%. I can't remember which number they landed on. And we were excited to get a note from the county that said that they were anticipating our final application for that program. So I think that's due in the middle of September. So we're going to be seeking the full award of $500,000 to go towards our water project. I mean, the challenge that we're having is that we have this giant water project, which was originally expected to cost a total of $5.1 million in 2019, but 2019 dollars are not 2022 dollars. So we've actually had to kick out a couple of sections. The project will cost well north of 5.1. We just can't do the full amount. So we'll easily qualify as long as the county agrees that we would be eligible for a $500,000, because that would be the cap in terms of an award using the ARPA money. But we're putting that application together as we speak.
Oh, good. Let me also clarify. So, because I thought there's another whereas. 25% of your 50% contribution can be through in-kind. So you could do that math. So you have to have 50% contribution where 25% of it can be in-kind.
So it can't all be in-kind. You got to show up with some dollars. Yes.
Yeah. Although you have isn't there that recent resolution that we passed here in New Paltz where money dedicated to parks that could be utilized? I don't remember what it was. There was it was not in this last voting period, but two before.
I think I know what you're talking about. Was it about like the extra tax on a transfer tax?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's for
the
open.
town.
That's for open space, and that's not those not necessarily become parks.
Oh, you can't.
I would actually highly recommend that when we acquire money using that open space program, that we do not turn things into parks, because I live this world of trying to negotiate with parks, and it's really painful. So we have parks, and we have the pickleball courts that desperately need a facelift and the fencing around them. We have a skateboard project that we would like to construct in Hasbrook Park. We have no shortage of cool and important capital projects that we need to take on. So we're super excited, and it was a lot of fun actually talking about this possibility with the other municipal leaders from across the county, because everyone felt similarly. Everyone felt like they had cool projects to invest in to make their parks better.
Great. And then just to follow up on sort of with something Alex was saying, I did mention it this last time, and these processes are slow, but hopefully the RFP that we'll be putting out for an organization to provide eviction services for those who can't pay will be going out in the next week or so. I don't know how many organizations are even eligible to apply, but I would imagine one of the ones that you named would probably be. And that, hopefully we can move along pretty quickly, as slow as government goes, move along quickly, getting some funding to those kinds of organizations so that people are not being told they need to call back, but there's actually enough to support the need. So I'll keep you posted on that.
Yeah, thank you. I was gonna ask you about that. I'm really excited about that one. And I was gonna reach out to, and I probably still will after this, to see if there's any way I can help support moving that forward at all, like a letter to the editor or letter to the county ledge or anything like that would help.
Yeah, I'll let you know. What I've done is I haven't asked the legislature for money yet. I've done the RFP so that
Okay.
once we have people responding, I know how much I'm asking. So when that time comes and there's an actual resolution, then absolutely, it would be great to have people come and support.
Yeah, I could probably get a ton of friends because it came up at an event I was at. And I was like, oh, let me see what he's been up to, and everyone was excited. So I got
wish
like a
you spoke
dozen of us
faster.
come out.
Unfortunately, these things just don't go as quickly as you want, but it's okay. We'll get
Feel
it.
that.
Yeah. Any other questions, thoughts, concerns? All right. Thank you.
As
you so
usual,
much.
this is greatly appreciated. Thanks
Yeah.
for the updates.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
See you later. Sweet. So can I just amend or put an add-on to my announcement? So if you are in that holding pattern where you're seeking legal assistance being turned away, just do everything you can to hang in there because help is on the way.
So, all right, I'm going to jump into our business agenda. So we have several topics that will touch on climate equity and justice related themes. So number 2 in our business agenda is we submitted a letter of intent to apply for the 6th year to the Downtown Revitalization Initiative program. The first time we applied was in 2016. We're doing it a little bit differently this year. We thought it might be a way to make our application more powerful, to partner with our colleagues in the village of Ellenville. We reached out to them. They were super excited about this possibility. There's a bunch of synergies that we're excited about realizing. We actually put together a meeting last week with the executive director of Family, because there's Family of Ellenville, there's Family of New Paltz. We met last week with the New Paltz youth program. Phoenix has done tons of work regarding opioid prevention. That's a theme that we want to include in New Paltz's portion of the application. Harm reduction, opioid prevention. Another important part that the RDC members will be looking at is projects that are ready and have existing tailwinds. So the Ann Oliver House on Broadhead is one that we're super excited about including in our grant application. And then the other piece to anything that the REDC would consider awarding should always involve job creation. So we would be partnering with SAM6. SAM6 was the software engineering company that was grown here in New Paltz starting in 2014. The company was sold to a larger investor, and there's some opportunities there to formalize relationships with the SUNY School of Engineering, maybe even the New Paltz youth programs in high school. We're really trying to think about ways to involve as many people in different aspects as possible. Whether it's internship programs related to the Ann Oliver House or the software engineering company. It just feels super exciting that there's ways to just use some of our well-resourced existing efforts and institutions and really spread the efforts more broadly, and then compare notes with Ellenville, see what they're doing successfully. Not necessarily just do things in our own little silos, but like really think about how we could work together. Things that might work in New Paltz would also potentially support young people in Ellenville. So that's really a theme that we want to address. Same thing in terms of employers across the county in New Paltz, in Ellenville. What's very curious that we're hearing from lots of different employers is they're having actually a harder time finding staff, not the other way around. It's not that young people or people interested in work. It's like it just feels like there's an opportunity to create bridges where employers want to employ and folks want to work. It just seems like there's lots of different ways to approach this, and we also have baked in a project that would leverage our existing village affordable housing law. So there's a project that would be good in terms of ending up with more housing stock in the village, and then by default, because it would be greater than 10 units, end up with additional affordable housing units. And then we're thinking a fun symbolic way to combine the two municipalities is to also combine them physically. So Open Space Institute has been doing work for years in our region, and they have had this dream of finally completing the Smiley Carriage Road, and that would be a way where one could walk or cycle from the village of New Paltz to the village of Ellenville. So our joint application would include involvement and financial support for OSI so that they could complete that project. We had a really great call with the OSI team. They have some wicked smart people who know a great deal about applying for financial assistance through New York State. So having them on board feels like a very important tailwind. So a lot of cool, exciting prospects for us to apply jointly. And then we would simultaneously be applying individually to this brand new program called New York Forward. And that was designed by the Department of State and the Regional Economic Development Councils to help smaller communities like ours to have a bite at this apple for this type of grant assistance. So we're excited to, each village will apply to the New York Forward program for $4.5 million awards independently. And then we will be applying jointly for a $10 million award via the DRI program. So those letters of intent were submitted, they were due today. And I guess the other new piece to this entire process is that they want to help us with some of the grant writing and just making sure that what we're trying to do is in line with what the grantors want to see. So we met that deadline by submitting our letter of intent today. But we're feeling, having now written this grant application for 6 years and seeing who has won it in the past, I feel like our team has a very solid understanding of what's involved. So we'll use a lot of that historical knowledge and then hopefully get some of this new information from the Department of State and the REDC folks. But any questions from the board, or the applications are due September 23rd at 4 p.m. So
This is such a different approach and process than in the past, and I love it. It makes so much sense. It's so cool. Thanks for spearheading it.
Yeah, thanks. It's awesome because it bridges the communities too, and you know, I think that's important as a state, or as a country, just to build that sense of community with our neighbors is so important. So that's such an amazing just step to take in itself. And I really, I think a brilliant way to collaborate together with our fingers crossed.
Yeah, it's exciting, like, at every turn when we reached out to, potential partners, everyone seemed super excited. It just feels like a unique way to go about and pursuing this franchise, so, you know, we've got some fresh energy, so we'll have some fun, keep our fingers crossed, maybe we'll get lucky.
Also, just gotta say, you know, like, there's always this, you know, rhetoric, like, all over the county where it's like, oh, like, you know, the villages. Or like the orphans, you know, and so on, and so New Paltz. And I guess so Ellenville to kind of turn it on its head. And so like, no, we're like awesome, super human strengths, we're gonna work together, you know, so just, yeah, love that positive spin. But yeah, I'm excited. Let's do it.
All right. All right, item number 3 is related to parking. So this is a topic that very few people in New Paltz take any interest in. It never stirs anyone emotionally. Being completely facetious. This is a very challenging topic that requires a lot of staff time, and you know, downtown businesses rely on our local government to turn spaces over, and because we are a community that has historically not received sales tax. You know, we have to have a way to collect some revenue to pick up all like the abandoned Solo cups and hard seltzer cans that get left all over the village every weekend morning, as well as the pizza slices. Like the amount of uneaten pizza slices all over our village is amazing. I saw a deer eating a slice of pizza the other day, and I never knew that deer ate pizza.
They
But
do here.
they do in New Paltz because there's just ton, you know, you could probably find a whole pie if you collected all the individual slices that are left over in the evenings after the night. Well, I'm getting a little sidetracked, so prior to COVID, we were taking a deep dive looking at all the different parking apps, where folks, instead of using physical hardware to pay for parking, whether it's a parking meter or a parking kiosk, they could use an app on their phone. So we looked at the different offerings, and at that time we were going to find one that integrated nicely with the parking kiosks that we had installed in the Plattekill Avenue lots. Unfortunately, that piece of hardware was very unreliable, and we actually had to get out of our contract with the company that we either bought or rented that piece of hardware from. It was like a $9,000 machine that was not very reliable. So the other challenge with any of this stuff, with parking meters or parking kiosks, the parking apps must communicate with our financial software. So the layers of involvement is just so much more than most people would imagine, in that you know, we have a financial office where we receive money, and you know, whether it's taxes or building department fees or a variety of things. We have a type of financial software that's called Info. So all of these things need to integrate, and it's generally more complicated than most people would imagine in terms of, you know, making sure that everything is on the same page. So more recently, now that we're on the other side of COVID, we've again updated, and you know, we've done this over the last couple of months, bought new meters, and we thank our DPW staff. They actually did a great deal of research to find hardware. It was basically reconditioned meters from a reliable Canadian company that we have had success with. And these reconditioned meters were removed from a different municipality. We were able to buy them at a very reasonable price. So many of those, I think, approaching 100 new meters have been installed in the village. And then we're looking to have this combination of kiosks, as well as some sections that have no hardware at all, no kiosk and no meter, so that an individual could pay for parking just by using the app. And the company that we are looking to work with, the software is developed by T2, and then they have subsidiaries UpSafety and Mobile Pay. So this was actually a text-based system. So instead of an individual showing up and not being able to download the whole app, they could actually pay for the parking through a texting system that will eventually work. You know, once your credit card information is in that system, it will, the experience will feel similar to an app. But we're feeling like we have identified a good solution. The other piece to all of this too is then when our parking enforcement person walks around, they actually have a handheld device that scans registrations to determine whether someone has paid or not for their parking. So, you know, that is an additional expense. That is an additional piece of hardware that needs to be integrated with everyone. There's, you know, this is like a whole vertical integration system. So this is boring stuff, but this is what we do here at Village Hall, Monday through Friday. So that's just basically an update that we're going to have a digital solution to paying for parking, hopefully in the not too distant future.
I do love how it's like a text-based system. You know, I think that kind of solves some of the like user and like education that usually would go along with these things. You know, just not the same thing as parking, but like the traffic situation in Kingston, someone who works on Broadway in Kingston, and watching kind of how difficult it is to educate people to change gears on things. Like I have no idea what's going on, to be quite honest. I have no idea how to ride my bike from my friend's house to my job, but it is what it is. I love how this is so easy, and we'll be able to kind of just be like, no, you just text it.
Right, and then once you're a regular user, the interface will feel just like an app, where
And you
you'll
just
get
stick
those
with
alerts,
it.
like if you're still in the restaurant and you gotta stay a little longer than you expected, you could pay remotely. And then you will get text notifying you that your time is about to expire. So you do have the option to run out and take off as opposed to re-upping. So, you know, there's, you know, that is the nice thing about the apps. It's like, ideally, you're less likely to end up with a parking ticket if you mistimed anything. So that should all work pretty well. But T2 is one of the companies that we had looked at a few years ago. And, you know, thanks to Roseanne and our treasurer's office and Autumn, they've been trying to really understand the pros and cons of some of these solutions. And this is where we've ended up. So thanks, folks, for making sure that it all works and that the credit card payments integrate with our financial software, because we want to make sure that our treasurer you know, feels that it works correctly too. Did we not move the consent agenda? I think we did, because I moved the consent agenda. Or
I thought we
I-
just.
right, you're saying that we
Change.
moved to amend it. but
Yeah.
We didn't move it. Does that sound right, Autumn?
Yeah.
Okay, motion to move the consent agenda.
Second.
Good catch.
Bye.
Donna, thank you.
Thank you.
And then item number, any questions on parking? So hopefully you can have like a big feature, maybe Lauren can take some cool photos of like the new meters. Maybe one of the local radio stations can do a you know, a story on this because they seem to,
Get the guy voted, please.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so the next item is a resolution supporting the proposed Clean Water, Clean Air and Green Jobs Bond Act of 2022. This was brought to our attention by our colleagues at Scenic Hudson, and they provided this draft resolution in support of the act. I motion that we move in support. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Item number 5 on our agenda. So the Village Planning Board received a letter from the attorney representing Woodland Pond. They were objecting to having to do anything related to creating parkland or a payment in lieu of parkland. They wrote a long, you know, they paid an attorney to write a long letter. And I guess in that planning board meeting, they wanted to make sure that our village board also received a copy of this letter. So Autumn, this letter is just the planning board's letter. It's not like the attorney wrote the village board its own letter.
That's how I understood it. Yes,
Okay,
let me make
So I
sure.
just wanted to double check that. So, I mean, what I struggle with is that, you know, the reason that we have a local law that references the state law is that, you know, this is how parkland is funded or recreation assets are invested in or constructed. This is the process. When you add, when you subdivide and create a new parcel in a community, or when you add new units, the thinking is that you have more demand on recreation. So this is the process. And I'm very appreciative of the history in that when Woodland Pond was created, they created an area which is now considered part of the Millbrook Preserve. It's preserved open space, and I believe technically the residents of Woodland Pond are the exclusive users, and it's not open to the public. But you know, there's definitely benefit to our community that it exists. Because X number of units were constructed at Woodland Pond, and now they are looking to add additional units. So if you are adding additional units, just like if I were to add like an accessory dwelling unit to you know, the property where I live, I would have to pay a recreation fee because there would be another new, you know, there would be new additional demand on our recreation assets. I mean, it's like, and I realize it's not a perfect system. It's just like, you know, you pay school taxes, you might not have kids in school, but this is like how things are funded. And I would like to believe that the residents of Woodland Pond appreciate the process, appreciate the system. This is how we pay for parkland and recreation assets in a community like ours is through this process where the planning board determines whether parkland is needed, and as we've communicated many times with our planning board, is that we actually have really fantastic parkland. Like we have Hasbrook Park over there that desperately needs investments to make it a park that more individuals can use. I don't think what we need is to add more parkland inventory. I mean, a community like ours, is you can just go out to the Field of Dreams. You know, that property existed for some time, and you know, we were actually applying for grant assistance collaboratively with the town of New Paltz to get money for the pickleball courts at Hasbrook Park and money to update the soccer fields at the Field of Dreams many years ago. I think we applied 2 or 3 years in a row, did not get an award. And then the folks who run the New Paltz Soccer League, because they're resourceful and they have, you know, generous friends in the community, they twisted Paul Colucci's arm and they asked Paul to, you know, get his trucks and get his friends who also have, you know, heavy equipment that costs, we know this because we buy vehicles like this. These are vehicles that cost $250,000. They went out there, they created soccer fields for our community, and they did that for free. And, you know, it was like an incredibly generous offering from those individuals. Like if the local government had to pay for it, even if we paid for it with payment in lieu of parkland, it would have cost incredible amounts of money. But that's what happens in a community like ours. It's we have young people, young families, senior citizens. We have people who live here because of our world-class recreation assets, and you know, I struggle with this request that that there should be an exception, because Woodland Ponds administration would prefer not to pay a payment in lieu of parkland, because they feel like they had done it already, or because it feels expensive. You know, this is the process. This is how we fund recreational assets and provide these important outlets for our community members. I'm going to tie it right back to this, you know, the theme of our DRI application is we feel like we need to do a much better job in terms of harm prevention, you know, because we have an opioid crisis. We need to offer stuff to young people, and you know, there's a bunch of things we can do, and one thing we can do is to make sure that they have access to enjoyable recreation assets.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it. It's about community. It's about all of us contributing to be good community members to help each other. Just like with giving $20 or $5 to family of New Paltz. I think it all definitely ties into that. Everyone being that member to help other members. And, you know, when we have a desirable, thriving, healthy community, it only makes people want to live in Woodland Pond even more so. So it's all part of the greater purpose to lift everyone.
Yeah, we all have to cooperate and do our parts to be part of the community. You know, we're not individuals. We have to look at it as a company.
And one of Eve's items tonight, you know, is another perfect example, you know, where it's like the municipalities that get awarded this park money will have to chip in. How would a municipality like ours be able to chip in without the recreation fee? Like, I can't think of any source of money at all that would work. That's it. Yeah.
All right, anything else on that, or we can move on to really just item number 6, the resolution regarding bills and claims. I motion to move staff resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do we want a planning board report from our village board liaison? Right, Bill is away. How about ZBA?
I was unable to make it to the meeting last night. I have some notes, but you were there.
I was there, yeah. I think I could provide an update. So the application that was being discussed was from, and I can't remember the address, 184 Main Street. 184 Main Street, the former Island Child, was a Jack in the Box, and it's been many things since then. But the property owners would like to construct a 12-room hotel, and then there would be a restaurant on the ground floor. And I believe the upper floor, there's the possibility of a roof deck that would be used by the restaurant patrons and the hotel guests. 3-story structure. The plan is designed by Alhambra Architecture. And the applicant was seeking a variance because that zoning requires a 10-foot rear yard. And they would like for that rear yard to be 5 feet instead of 10 feet. So the ZBA had a spirited conversation with the applicants. Really trying to see whether alternatives were considered and whether it made sense to grant this variance or made sense for them to consider a design that did not involve seeking this variance. And it was actually a good conversation. I actually felt like I learned a fair amount about the project and why they were seeking the variance. And I felt like the volunteer ZBA members did a fantastic job of asking good, hard questions. So I'm optimistic that all parties involved will figure it out. This project's going to go before the planning board. It seems like there's a great deal of interest from the community, particularly the neighbors who live nearby, who want to understand how this project will work and parking on the street. So, that should be considered, I think, when the ZBA decides whether or not to grant the variance. There may be some push and pull in terms of what the planning board would want in terms of on-site versus off-site parking. So, I think we're asking a lot of these volunteer planning board and ZBA members to try to figure out what is best for our community. But I know they're up for a tough job. So thanks to those individuals for serving. So if that's it, I think we can motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Bye.
Thank you.